Hey, this is Big Guy DIY Robert, coming to you with a new video. This one is the installation of a 522 NextBase camera. This is a dash cam. I've actually been running this cam in my windshield now for a couple of months. It comes with a variety of stuff which we'll talk about, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hardwire this camera in to my F150. This is the Hardwire kit, and we'll open this up and go over what comes in the kit. I want everyone to see what this is, who it's by. Alright, so let's look what comes in the camera box, and I'll discuss what is in there and then what I've been doing and what I'm going to be doing next. So in the camera box itself, obviously it comes with the camera, power cable. It also comes with a windshield mount, but it also comes with a permanent mount at the same time. We're going to permanent mount this camera up. I originally had the permanent mount up here because I was thinking that when this camera is on recording that the screen was always going to be on, but there's actually a setting in there where I can have it go into I don't want to call it a sleep mode, but a black mode, where it'll start recording and then the screen will turn off. But in the left corner here of the camera, there's be a blinking red light, which means that the camera is recording. So having it over here with my mirror down, I couldn't see the menu or anything. So I'm going to relocate the permanent location to where I got the suction cup mount. So your power cable is actually quite long overall. And I just had it plugged into this socket right here. Other things that come in with it is a charging cord. This is a USB on one side. I can hold this USB on one side, and then the other side is the old charging style cord, which you still use in like Garmin, TomTom, and stuff like that. The camera has to be charged first before you can use it. You have to charge this fully, so that's the purpose for this charging cord, because there is a built-in battery into that camera. You get your smart guide for installation of the camera. You get an extra sticky pad. This is the pad to mount it to the windshield. So since I already permanently mounted it here earlier, I had to cut that off. And they give you a tool for removing it off the windshield. So you got a hook on one end and then a very flat bar on the other end. This is the end that you're going to use to remove it off the windshield. And then this is a little cover that goes on the back side when it's permanently mounted. So we're going to be changing some parts here, and this cover clicks on it. Right now, because I'm using a suction cup mount, this cover has to come off. And then a warning label if you want to put it on your vehicle. I'm not going to put that on my vehicle. So the question is when you are mounting this permanently, where are you going to mount it and how are you going to mount it? This truck, as you can see, the antenna has already mounted in it a auto start, which I never use, and then the wiring runs across my windshield down, and then from there the mounting is in there. But with this Hardwire mount, which will open up, you get a wire that is 11 feet long And the question is, hang on. With the hard mount, the question is where are you going to run the wire and how are you going to run the wire? A lot of vehicles right now have two, what's the word I'm looking for? Fuse boxes, which we'll discuss on the F-150 where they are. This is a Hardwire mount kit. So you got 3 different types of jumpers, 4, sorry, depending on what you're going to use for a fuse box. As you can see, you definitely need a mounting screw for this, and then your fuse part will plug into this. When you're connecting to a fuse box, there is a mounting screw on there that is grounded. Instructions that come with it. And again, the stick for prying, you know, for the permanent mount, prying it off. So on an F150, to go from here all the way across, down, through the dash, through the firewall, hang on. So through the firewall, all vehicles, if I can get my flashlight in here, see that cable coming through the rubber boot there? I don't think I can point it with my finger, but I'll try. Right here. That is the access from inside the cabin through the firewall to the outside. As all vehicles will have an access point between the firewall and the exterior of your engine compartment. And it's always a rubber boot, and that's what you're going to snake it through if you're going to run the wire through your firewall to your fuse box. Now Ford has an internal fuse box. In an F-150, the fuse box is not to the left side of the driver, which you will find in cars a lot of times, and probably some other trucks, but it's actually on the passenger side. Right there. And that's below the glove box on the passenger side. So we're going to open this up. And the way to do that is grab this back part here, pull out, and you got tabs. These tabs here go into slots. And in this here is your locking piece. I would go into, let's see here, that square hole right there. So that's how it locks in place. This is your fuse box right here. So we'll take the cover right off. You just squeeze it here on the sides and it comes right off. Now, one thing about this fuse box, if you look at it, you can see numbers on it. 1 through 47. Here's another thing. We open up the fuse box to the engine compartment. 1 through 85. There's nothing on here that tells you what fuse controls what. There's nothing on here, front and back, that tells you what fuse controls what. Luckily, I printed an owner's manual, and I'm going to have a seat for this one. I printed an owner's manual. This is for the Ford F-150 for 2014. When you open it up, look for your part that says fuses, and the first page for fuses is 225. So we go right to 225. This diagram is for the compartment engine compartment fuse box. It is not for the interior fuse box. You have to go through a couple pages here to find it. And there you go. And then I noted it inside my book. So the next thing I need to do is, what am I going to choose for a fuse to power that? It really doesn't matter. There's two ways of installing this camera. One way is to install it where you're going to have continuous power, or the other way to install it is the power will shut off when you shut your vehicle off. I don't have a preference to it, but there's one thing to keep in mind is when you have this camera plugged in to a continuous power, that means there's a continuous draw on the battery. The one thing to remember is with all the electronics inside a vehicle, there's always a draw on the battery. That's why we have to replace the batteries far more frequently than, say, a battery that's in an old boat that has, or an old truck that has zero electronics. Even a radio that has push buttons where there's memory involved with the radio, there's always a constant draw from the battery, because that radio has to maintain that memory of the stations that you put in there. A lot of people don't realize that, but when you install radios, there's actually two power wires, one to run the radio and one for the memory of the radio, and they both draw from the battery. One draws from the battery constantly, and the other one only draws from the battery when the radio is turned on. So the camera, I'm going to set up that it'll shut off when the truck shuts off, just to eliminate more draw from my battery. My camera, though, does have a function. I think it's under the settings, and I can't remember what they call it, but something G-force, which means the camera can remain on or powered, but it's in a sleep mode all the time. But if someone hits your vehicle from the front only, the camera will capture that hit. Otherwise, if they hit you from the sides, hit you from the rear, yeah, the camera will click on, but it's not going to record who actually hit you. So I don't think I need the camera really on to record something it's not going to see. Chances are when you're in a parking lot, anyone hits you, it's usually in the rear of the vehicle, not the front. So that's what we're going to choose for wiring on this camera. So right now I'm going to take a look at my fuses. I'm going to take a look at these fuses, and a couple of them are spares, but I don't know if there's power to them. So I'm going to see if there's power to them first. So let me do that test, and then we'll come back to installing the jumper, which is one of these that'll fit in that fuse box. All right, this is the fuse I'm going to go after. On the chart, it's 47, which is mirrors and fog lights. So now the next trick is which one fits, because this is the fuse, and if you look at the plugs, they're all different. So the difference between them, and I'll show you them closely. So that you think would fit. Yes, it could. It is the same style, but that doesn't fit. Then we tried this. It's a little smaller, but the prongs are longer. That didn't fit. Then I tried this. This here, which has a much longer prong, fits. The reason why is on this fuse panel, there's a lip here, and the other two don't reach inside the fuse panel because of this lip sticking out, prevents it from taking place, but the other one does reach inside properly. So now we have to change this style fuse to fit inside here. You may or may not be able to see it, but this is the fuse that controls the camera, which is a 2 amp fuse. It's a 2 amp fuse on each one of these jumpers. You have a second slot here. That's the fuse that's replacing this part. So I got to find a 15 amp fuse to fit into this slot here. So I got a whole bunch of fuses because of having 3 vehicles, garden tractor, boats, snowmobiles. Everything takes some different kind of fuse. So I'm going to find a fuse. If I don't find a 15 amp fuse within this clutter, don't drop down a size, but you can go up a size. You just have to remember when you go up a size that if there is a short or something grounding out in a wire, you have a higher risk of burning that wire versus if you were to use the 15 amp fuse, which would pop under normal circumstances. So let me get the wire installed. All right, my jumper's installed. Now we have to do a ground wire. We have to do a couple things here. We got to do a ground wire. Now, so for anyone who's doing this who's as big as me, lying down in this space is very difficult. Like, I don't fit, bottom line. So we have to take that into consideration here. Next, I need to get access back there so I can find a way to ground it in the glove box. So I'm going to show you what to do with the glove box. Here's the other thing. We have to take this down. Lighting is bad. We have to take this arm, this handle off. So inside, you can't see, these caps come off. Like that. And there's a screw that screws into the thing here. So we're going to take this off just so it's hanging to allow me to get access down into here and into this. This also pops out. And my fuse panel is right down there. So you can see I have a lot of metal here I can use to ground it to. But if you didn't want to use something here on the side, because obviously you'd have to put a screw in. You'd have to drill this, put a screw in, and that can be your grounding screw. Another trick is the glove box. When you open up your glove box, on the side here and here, if you push it in, your glove box will empty out, and it'll give you, let it dump. That'll also give you direct access right to your fuse panel down there as well. You can kind of see it. So somewhere I'm going to ground it either to this piece of metal or this piece of metal with a screw, grounding screw. All right, I figured out what I'm going to do with the wiring. As I showed you, this is your power cord. This will plug into the jumper that I just installed, but this is my ground wire. I'm going to do something different here because if I ever had to take this off or have to remove it or something, let's say the vehicle gets crashed, I'd like to keep this. So we're going to change This end, my cutters, I'm going to cut this off. Strip it. Give it a twist. Fold it in half. And this is what you call a male. Oops. This is a male-female connector. So I'm going to put this on the end of my power source, or my power wire. Crimp it. Test it. Taking a new piece of ground wire. I'm only putting electrical tape on this because I don't want this plastic piece to slide down. This just to strengthen this part. Because it's a very thin wire. On this end, we are going to put a ring end on it. This end is what's going to be attached to the frame inside the truck. This will be my ground connector to my power. Before I do the connection, you always want to add a little electrode grease on here so it can slide in and out if it needs to be. So I drilled the hole. This metal frame actually comes through here and it's welded to this frame. This frame here is bolted to the door jamb itself. Here's one of two bolts, the other one's somewhere right there. So that's going to be my ground. So I just took the wire, fed it down, close the glove box. So there's my wire hanging. Here's my power wire. And I'm going to test her here. I want to see if I got voltage. And I do. 1217. So that's done. So we got that set up. Next is taking the handle off and this piece of trim so I can work the wire behind this and then up into this part here, tucked up inside there. So these are the two bolts that hold your handle in, and you just pull this straight out. You don't want to pull it too far because you get your speaker wire. At least I have a speaker right there. You may not, don't know, but you just want to pull it enough where it gives you access through here, straight down into this area, and right down. So that's what it looks like from the side. I'm actually going to follow where this existing wire is going up and run my wire up here inside the headliner. There's actually a space at the top of the headliner here. I can move it in. All right, my wire's installed. I leave a little length to it because it's, let's see if we get the mirror up here. Leave a little length to it because it gives you the ability to, if you ever need to fix the camera, take the camera off, you have some flexibility to work with it. If the wire's too short, you're gonna have trouble doing anything with the camera, plugging it in. So I stuff the wire up into the headliner all the way around, ran the wire along the side, and you notice on the wire there was a big block. Well, that big block does fit through here. It came all the way down, and then I have it zip tied. That's the wire right there you're looking at and touching it. Came down through here. This is the glove box open. You can see my ground. Close my glove box, and then there's my wire right there, dropping down. And that's the box I'm talking about. It's 1 inch by 1/2 inch in size. So obviously I have quite a bit extra wire. So we're going to loop that up, and we're going to zip tie it just up underneath the glove box. And what wiring is needed, which is just the red and the black wire here, I'm going to have hanging down just below the glove box itself. So let me get all of this back together, and I'll show you how the wire is tidied up underneath. Alright, my extra wiring is bundled up here behind the glove box. We'll just close the glove box now. And here we are, hooked up to the fuse panel, and then see the wiring runs up there. So we're going to put our fuse box cover on and install the camera onto the windshield. Alright, as I said, I had the suction cup windshield mount on. If you lost your instructions to this, which some people do, or they don't want to look, the way this comes off is it slides sideways. That's how it comes off, leaving you with 3 prongs. Those 3 prongs will match the slots on the bottom of this. See, slides on. This is where your power is now going to connect, which it also connected before. You can also cheat. That's also power, but that's used when you're charging the camera up before usage. So I gotta get some alcohol, clean the windshield before I put this up. So after about 30 seconds, the screen will go black. So it will have no effect of my nighttime driving. And all I'll see when I know if it's recording or not is that little red light tells me that it's recording. So I obviously chose, well, I didn't choose, I didn't have a choice, but the wire is hot, which means there's 12 volt going to it all the time. So I'll probably change the setting then on this camera to where if a vehicle should hit me from the front end, it'll record it. Now when it's on like that, it's in a sleep mode. It's the initial G-force or shock to the vehicle from a hit that'll instantly turn the camera on and record what's happening. When you get into an automobile accident, the camera will save automatically, like, I don't know, a minute before the accident, and it'll continue to record after the accident. The nice thing about it is, with this is, should you witness an accident and you're going to stay there to be as a witness to the police to speak up for a victim of something, you can show through Bluetooth. There is an app you can download from Play Google. You can download the app and it will Bluetooth to your camera, and you can play the video to the police officer and show what had actually happened in an accident that you witnessed. You can also save that video if you wanted to, for future usage should they need it, you know, attorneys or whatever. But the app that you can use through your phone is pretty nifty. Definitely highly recommend it. I do not have the rear window camera because I don't have much of a rear window, and I really don't want a camera in the back there. So I'm just going to use what I currently have looking here. So don't forget to subscribe. This is Big Guy DIY Robert. Give me a thumbs up if this video helped. Again, this is a 2014 F150 that it's installed. I probably do 20,000 miles a year on this truck for towing, and so I wanted to put this additional safety measure into the truck. Have a good one. Drive safe. Bye. One very important note I forgot to mention: when you're putting your fuse box cover on down here, after you put on your attach your wires, that fuse box cover will not fit on tight at all. It actually, you might get one side to clip and the other side won't clip. You can cut the cover if you want, so the cover will sit flush. I mean, it's your personal choice. I did not cut the cover because that jumper cable sits out so far, the cover won't sit flush. When you put this interior cover on, that will close and it'll actually hold the fuse box cover on. So I just wanted to make that note because I didn't realize that would happen until I put it on, and I wanted to mention it. Take care.